Shalom to you and welcome. In this video, we look at radical equations, and the equations are quadratic in form. We'll solve quadratic equations and then use U-Substitution to solve equation quadratic in form. A radical equation is any equation that has a variable in the square root or cube root or fourth root. Like this one, once the variable is inside, if you had like square root of 4 minus 8 or something like that, it's not a radical equation because there's no variable in here. So if you have only number, you can evaluate it. But if you have a variable with it, that becomes algebraic expression, then it becomes a radical equation. So when solving radical equation, because anything under the square root for square root has to be greater than or equal to 0, so some of the roots, depending on what type of root is it, square root for sure. So because the square root cannot be negative, there are some restrictions. So it's very helpful to check your solutions because sometimes you may get what looks like a solution. We call it extraneous solutions. But then when you plug it in, it doesn't make the equation true. It does not satisfy the equation. So just like a rational equation, the denominator cannot be 0. So, but sometimes you get a number. If you don't check it, you think it's the solution, but it's not. So it's always encouraged to check your solution, whatever you find, to make sure it satisfies the equation. So how to solve radical equation is to get the radical expression by itself on one side of the equation. Move every term on one side and leave the term with radical expression by itself. If you have more than one, like this one, we have 2 of them, then leave the one that looks most complicated by itself. Move the other ones on the other side. Okay, so let's solve this one. So here we are leaving 3x, square root of 3x plus 1. We are going to add this and onto the other side. That way it's going to make it positive also. So we're going to write 3x plus 1. And then if we move it to the other side, it becomes plus square root of x minus 1. So, and now, since we have this expression by itself, we can take the square of both sides. So square, we cancel out the square root. We have 3x plus 1 here. And on this side, because we have 2 terms are separated by addition or subtraction. So we are going to FOIL. So we are going to multiply by itself. So 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times that is 2 square root of x minus 1. And that times that is plus 2 again, x minus 1. That times itself is plus square root of x minus 1 squared. Okay, here the square, we cross out the square root, and then we're going to have x minus 1. So we have a constant 4 here. We have a constant negative 1. We add it, they become 3. And then these 2 are like terms. So we add them, we get plus 4 square root of x minus 1. And then we have this plus x left here. So on this side, we just have 3x plus 1. So now we have simplified each side. We can move everything on one side because we still have square roots here. So we're going to get this square root term by itself. So we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. Subtract 3 from both sides. And we're going to subtract x from both sides also. So we have 2x minus 2 equals 4 square root of x minus 1. So sometimes it's necessary, you may have to take square a couple of times to undo the square root. Okay, so but at least we have only one now. We know this last one is going to get rid of it. So we're going to square each side again, since this term is by itself. There's no other term with them. So if we square, we're going to FOIL this side again. So this is I took the longest one just to show a lot of steps. So the ones you're going to do will be easier, hopefully, after we do the hard ones together. So 2x minus 2. So this will give us 4x squared. That's negative 4. That's negative 4x and positive 4. And if we collect like terms, let me check it. 2x squared. 4. Oh, we have 4x. And that will be the like terms. 4x squared. So these two minus 8x plus 4. Okay, so this part we just FOIL. This is like 4 squared times, so this one we cross out this one, we square that one, x minus 1. So that would be 16 times x minus 1. So distribute. So that would be 16x minus 16. Okay, so on this side we are going to have 4x squared minus 8x plus 4. Clean this up a little bit. Okay, so yep, this is where we are now. Alright, so now we see it is quadratic, so we're going to move everything on one side and then solve. I'm going to move it up here. So we have 4x squared. Okay, if we subtract 16 from both sides, that is going 16x. We have 16x here, we have negative 18x. So if we subtract 6, because we want to move everything on one side, set one side equal to 0. So negative 8 minus 16, that would give negative 24x. And then positive 4 plus 16 is negative here, so we add 16 to both sides. That will give us plus 20 equals 0. And then we can solve this quadratic equation any way we want, either by factoring or by, we can also see if 4 can go into 24. If we simplify it, would that make it easier to factor? So 24 divided by 4 is, so we can divide everything by 4. So that gives us x squared minus 6 x plus 5 equals 0. Okay, the numbers we can multiply and get 5 and add them and get negative 6 is 5. Negative 5 and 1. So x minus 1 and x minus 5 equals 0. Therefore, if we set each of them equal to 0, x is going to be 1 and x is equal to 5. Solve them. Okay, that's it. We can check it, plug it in. Let me get a calculator. Let's check for extraneous solutions. So when x is 5 and x is 1, so we simplify here and see if we get one side. So I will take the square root of, so I have 3 times, so 3 times 1, 3 times 1, and then plus 1. Then get out of that square root, then minus, I take another square root, x is 1, 1 minus 1, and equals, okay, that gives me 2. I'm going to check 5 also. Do the same thing. Square root of 3 times 5, and then plus 1, and then minus another square root of 5 minus 1 equals 2. So both of them equal 2. So that checks. Both of them are correct. Okay. So next, solve the real solution. So this one, oh, thank God, is simpler because the term with the square root is by itself. So we're going to go ahead and square both sides. So x squared equals 2 square root of negative x minus 1 squared. So this square is going to go to both this and that. And that square, 2 squared is 4. And then the square will cross out the square root. We have negative x minus 1. So distribute negative 4x and distribute negative 4 x squared. Again, this is quadratic, so we're going to move everything on one side. X squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 0. We can factor 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 plus 2 is 4. So x plus 2 and x plus 2. So both of them are the same. Therefore, the one solution we'll have is x plus 2 equals 0. Subtract 2 from both sides. X equals negative 2. So is negative 2 repeated? It's used twice by two of them. Because based on the fundamental theorem of algebra, a square root must have 2 solutions. So sometimes I have one solution, so that one solution is repeated and we see why. Okay, so let's check it though. So we know x is negative 2. So let's check this side and see if it equals negative 2. So 2 times the square root of negative, and we have negative 2, so I'm going to put parentheses, negative 2, and then minus 1. It's very important you type it in correctly and get out of, use the arrow to get out of the square root. Okay, I get positive 2. Check, see if I made mistake. Everything looks okay. But I get positive 2. So positive 2 does not equal negative 2. So you see, this is extraneous solution. So there is no solution. Okay, so always check it, no matter how good it looks. So this one we have 4th root on the left, we have square root on the right, but 4th root is by itself already. Both of them are by themselves, so we're going to take the 4th root of both sides. Whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. So if we are getting rid of the 4th root, we have to take the 4th root of the other side. And what does square root of 5 to the 4th power mean? That means you multiply the square root of 5 4 times. Okay, so we need to always remember the meaning so we don't make careless mistakes. So since this is square root, so square root of 25 is 5, square root of 25 is 5, 5 times 5 is 25. So we can actually simplify this to 25. And then the 4th root, we cross out 4th root. We just have x squared plus 16 equals. And then we have a quadratic equation again. So we can we can go ahead, since there are not 3 terms, there's only 2 terms, we can go ahead and subtract this from both sides and see if we get 16 from both sides and see if we get a perfect square, or we can simplify it like that. So that is 9. So x is going to be plus or minus the square root of 9, so which is plus or minus 3. So our answer, x equals 3, x equals negative 3. Again, let's check it. The square root of 5, let's check what the square root of 5 is. Okay, square root of 5 is 2.2. Okay, let's check the other side, the 4th root. To get the 4th root, we go to math, and then we select this one that has x in it. So that one you can use for any root. So I have the 4th root. So inside there I have negative 3. Whether it's 3 or negative 3, because it's squared, we're going to get the same thing. So that will make it easier for us. So 3 squared, and then plus 16. Then get out of that. Okay, it gives the same thing. So if we are doing negative 3, make sure we put it into parentheses. So that check that's our answer. So this is negative 3 though. Okay, so those are our answers. Okay, so when you see a problem like this, we look at it, we're like, how do I solve this? But take a step back and look at it closely. You will see a pattern. Like in parentheses, we have 2x plus 5. And here we have 2x plus 5 also. So they are the same thing. So if we substitute that expression with one variable, let's see what it looks like. So we usually use u, but you can use any variable. Just u is commonly used, and we call it U-Substitution. So we let u equals 2x plus 5. So if we substitute u, replace this u here, we have u squared, because that expression is squared. So minus, and then u again, minus 6 equals 0. Look what we get. It gives us a simple quadratic equation, and we can easily solve that quadratic equation. So let's do that for u. So what can we multiply and get negative 16, and we add it and get negative 1. So that would be negative 3 and positive 2. So negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. And so u minus 3 is equal to 0, or u plus 2 is equal to 0. So if we solve both, add 3 to both sides here. So u equals 3. And if we subtract 2 from both sides here, equals negative 2. Okay. So now we're going to remember the common mistake here. People reach here and then they forget that they are not done. You are not solving for u, we are solving for x. So we have to plug our answer here to solve for x. So we replace u for 3 equals 2x plus 5, and then we solve. This is a linear equation now. So subtract 5 from both sides. The same process of solving equation. Okay. And then divide both sides by 2. So that gives us negative 1 equals x. Okay, so x is what we are solving for. So we do the same thing for for u equals -2. So we have to do both of them. So it's -2 equals 2x plus 5. So if we subtract 5 from both sides, we get -7 equals 2x. So divide both sides by 2, we get x, and that will be our answer. So this is not a radical equation. So the quadratic equation has all real solution. The domain is all real numbers, so that will be fine. There's not much restriction. So yeah, that's it. U-substitution. It makes things easier. Working with complicated things, you use a simple or just one variable and then come back. But always remember to substitute at the end to solve for what you're solving for. Okay, look at this one. Okay, this is the fourth root and square. But what can we change? What can we make u be? This expression, we can rewrite it as 2x squared is x squared squared. If we see that x squared and then minus 5x squared minus 12. Okay, so we have to look, and then we can also rewrite to help us find what we can substitute. So we have x squared, we have x squared. So we're going to let u equals x squared. So now we have 2u squared minus 5u minus 12 equals 0. So we can solve this quadratic any way we want, or whichever way is easier. 2 cannot go into everything. If you like quadratic, if you like to, you can also use your calculator. So if we do that, what is u? So u is going to be divided 2x. So I solved it on my calculator, and then u equals 4. So we come here and replace -3/2 equals x squared. So plus and minus square root -3/2 equals x. But look at here. We are looking for real solutions. If it's real solutions, the square root cannot have negative inside. So it's not real. So this will not be a solution. So let's check the other one. So u equals x squared. So u is 4. So plus or minus square root of 4 equals x. So plus or minus 2 equals x. So x equals 2 and x equals -2. Okay, those would work. So those are our two solutions, not this one. Okay, how about this? We look at x cubed, x squared, x. Okay, there's none of them that is common for us to make it either quadratic or anything. But if we look also, we have x is common to all three of them. X is the GCF. So that's always the first thing to do whenever you're solving any equations. Check to see if there is a GCF for all of them. You can factor out. So you can factor out x. So x, go into that. You have x squared plus 6x minus 7 equals 0. So we have factored out. We look at what we have is quadratic left. Use any method to solve it. It looks like it's easy to factor, so we are going to factor that more. Mind you that we have already factored x. It's factored. So this is what can I multiply and get. Two things I can multiply and get -7, and I add them and get 6. That would be 7 and -1. It has to be, the big one has to be positive to be able to get +6. So it's +7 and -1. So now I will have 3 factors. So x equals 0. Set each of the factors equal to 0. So x plus 7 equals 0. And x minus 1 equals 0 also. So this one is already solved. Subtract 7 from both sides. X equals -7. Add 1 to both sides. X equals 1. So those are 3 solutions. Solutions: -7, 0, and 1. So that's it. Okie dokie. Alright. So remember, for radical, you have to check for extraneous solutions because it's limited. Always remember the quadratic formula. You can see whether you're solving radical or any other function, most of the time you either come down to a quadratic equation or linear equation. So, and those are the ones you learn first, so you know how to manipulate it once you get them.